play this tune called Good Night, My Love, and this kind of represents everything that I felt about California when I first came out here.
Good night, my love.
Ed Ruscha's been making work in Los Angeles for the better part of a century. People often talk about Ed's work, his paintings, his books, photos or films, as being about Los Angeles, California, or the West. When they talk about Ed, they describe him as cool. And yes, he's cool. And yeah, the places he paints or photographs are usually in Los Angeles. He's lived here for over 60 years, after all. I'm not going to try to explain Ed's work. We only have a few minutes here. But I am going to show you as much as I can. And there's a lot, so buckle up.
Ed? You know, what should people see? Maybe, gas stations, maybe. They're streamlined. Everything about it is streamlined. That's what I like.
In the early 60s, Ed was making the 1,000-mile drive from Los Angeles to Oklahoma City a lot.
The thing I really noticed were gasoline stations.
So he took photos of them and published 26 of them in a little book.
Ed said to me at the time, "It's a diary."
Sold the books at $3 a pop.
And I went home and thought about that.
When he ran out, he printed more.
It was kind of a punk move.
It looked like anybody could have done that if they had their eyes open.
One photo in particular stuck with Ed, a standard station outside Amarillo, Texas. He borrowed a composition from the movies. When the Lumiere brothers first showed this in 1896, audiences jumped out of their seats. Standard station's an image Ed revisited many times. Here it is on fire in 1966, burning in 68, with a 10-cent Western being torn in half. An olive. An olive?
Does that mean olive oil? Whatever the joke is, I love it.
Here's what the building looks like today. It's called K&T Automotive Transmission. He used this format on a few paintings from that time. Here's Norm's Diner, also on fire. They tried to tear the building down last year.
You know, architects are into it for what they can do with a space. I'm into it for something else. I'm still trying to understand what that is.
Apartment buildings caught Ed's attention next.
There weren't that many in Oklahoma at the time.
He started photographing them.
Gee, look at these apartment buildings are just totally square.
The buildings have a name,
Like it was a car.
and then the name is in a font.
He made another book, then started drawing some of these pictures.
It was like a nervous compulsion.
I remember growing up thinking how tacky they were, and now they look actually sort of quaint.
He used a motorized camera to shoot a long picture of the Sunset Strip. 2.5 miles became a book that folded out for 27 feet. 25 years later, Ed was still painting buildings. He called these 5 black and white ones his Blue Collar series. 10 years after that, when Ed was invited to represent the United States at the Venice Biennale, he updated those 5 with 5 new color ones.
He looks at them directly without any beauty or mystery, although the paintings are great to look at.
Yeah, they are great to look at. Maybe we should have started with the word paintings. Let's try that. Word paintings, Ed Ruscha. Go.
He's more interested in words than he is in architecture.
You know, it's where Ed started, after all. One-word knockout, straight out of school.
Prior to Ruscha, how many of you took the opportunity to consider the word oof?
Something about these felt inspired by his childhood love of comics. These early paintings got Ed his first big break. Walter Hopps included 3 of them in his breakthrough exhibition at the Pasadena Art Museum, and Ed was the youngest artist included. He also made the poster. In the next few years, he started tweaking his text.
Claiming it, making it his word.
Pulling it apart, first literally, then in his kerning. By the late 60s, Ed was making it look like his text was made of maple syrup, jelly, beans, water.
He had an enormous amount of skill for a young guy in terms of handling paint.
And also, it's funny.
In the early 70s, Ed started painting with actual foods. Chocolate, cilantro, ketchup, caviar, hot sauce.
Anything that he could use to leave his mark.
Here's Ed with some chewing tobacco.
I just picked tobacco just because of the marks it makes.
How can you get romantic about prune juice? You can taste it and see it, or see the stains. He likes the stains. Who would have ever done something like that? Ed Ruscha. That's what he'd do.
He started making drawings using gunpowder a few years prior. and made these prints out of squid ink, daffodils, and axle grease in '69.
How does the word jelly look with jelly? Try putting that in your hat before you have ever seen somebody else do it.
A few years later, he made a movie about a car mechanic that goes from grease-covered to pristine.
The movie that I was in is about a mechanic who forgets that he made a date with a girl. He starts out in a small, dirty little garage, ends up in a great big clean garage.
Words were all spoken in this one, save for this great-looking title.
I mean, sometimes when you finish a painting, you feel clean.
By the late 70s, he worked clouds into the background, and in '82, he standardizes type with a font he calls Boy Scout Utility Modern.
It looked like it was done by a lineman for the telephone company, you know, and he's asked to make the poster for the annual picnic.
In the '80s, the phrases got longer. You could kind of make sense of little stories here and there.
You right away when you hear a phrase like that, and you want to know, who is she and why did they call her Styrene?
'85 brought about the first of these city lights and the first appearance of censor strips, kind of like redacted government documents. In 1997, he started painting these majestic mountains. As much as I like Ed's words, and he's got a few, he's just as good without them. 1997, Picture Without Words. He'd been making sketches of it for over 25 years, and you can kind of look at it forever.
It's a godlike painting.
So what's the secret? What makes Ed Ruscha keep painting every day over 50 years later?
I think he came from a different place. He had a different source, the direct source of reality. Like a person from another planet would come in here and see this stuff directly. That's it.
Ed Ruscha. Amen.